Alright, so today's video is going to be a bit of a longer one because we have a rabbit hole to get through. And the one we're going to be looking at today is Chibi reviews. Now, just to preface this, I'm kind of familiar with him. I haven't really watched him much. Like I've watched some of his older videos. I haven't watched his newer stuff. And essentially, who he is, he's just like a guy who comments on anime, or makes videos about anime or anime culture, or I don't know, Crunchyroll or all that fun stuff. And he has about almost like 500,000 subscribers, give or take. And some of his thumbnails are a bit on the interesting side. We'll put it that way. Some of them are kind of degenerate, but that's not besides the point. And so, why is he been famous, you asking? Well, let's just say there's been like a string of events that has kind of happened in the past like few days, which we will get to later. And so, because of strings of events, basically a lot of people who don't like him have kind of been coming out of the woodwork and trying to be just basically saying like, oh, this guy's always been bad or whatever. You get what's coming to you. And I mean, the way they talk about this man, they treat him like he's literally the devil incarnate. But instead of just feeding into this kind of stuff, I actually want to take a full look at like the timeline of what it is, because there's a lot that actually goes into the lore of this guy, and because he's been around for so long, there tends to be a lot of stuff surrounding him. But more importantly, I actually want to take a look at stay at the big picture, because instead of having to just dogpile somebody, we should probably understand at least what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff flying around. And so I am going to go and take a look into essentially the big events that have happened to him as of late. And of course, I can't include every single Twitter post he's ever posted. I can't do every single take that he's ever done. That's too much. But we can take a look into the important parts. So let's get started, because we have quite a long way to go. All right, now the biggest controversy that probably in the history of his channel is when he got doxxed by the Boruto community, and he wanted to do a lawsuit about it. So let's actually get his own words on this situation first, and then we will talk about it a bit more, because it's quite a lot. Like, it's quite a lot.
So I have been doxxed. My private information has been leaked online, my full name, where I live, pictures of my house, pictures of my dead brother's grave, and mocking my dead brother's grave on top of that. And then, on top of all of this, continuous amounts of death threats. This video is being used as a paper trail for I can show to my lawyer, also the court system, because I am going to be filing a lawsuit against the individuals that are responsible for doxing my private information. Now, as you can see on screen, I already have a few people that, is not necessarily going to be potentially in this lawsuit, but I do want to showcase the actions of what I've been going through throughout this entire ordeal in the last 48 hours or so, ever since the first episode of Dawn to Dawn came out, and I uploaded my video on it this past Wednesday.
So as you can see, it was basically one tweet that got him into all this trouble. He was said about, like, animators went too hard for the scene. And of course, the scene is from Dawn to Dawn, and if you watched it, it's quite a scene, quite an allegory. But that's basically what it was. And so people from the Boruto community essentially took that and said, all right, let's just go and start going crazy on him. So you can actually see in some of the stuff he posted, like he talked about, his docs, and his brother also passed away some years ago. And so people were going out of the way to make fun of him and then posting all of that. And that's where we are at now. So even here, you could say here, like the person here says, oh, a lot of shit happened, but Chibi just blaming Boruto fans for everything is just funny. He says, because I'm the one who leaked it and I'm a Boruto fan. So just blatantly admitting crimes. And said, this dude is capping. You do not need to care about him. He's a Naruto fan. Like, nigga, I'm a Boruto fan. I tweet about the Boruto regularly. And this is, we still smoke on Eddie. So of course, Eddie is, of course, Chibi's brother. Passed away. Now, because this gets even more insane, it's even more insane. And so the next part here is essentially from Chibi himself. He says here, remaking the post without link. Someone who hacked into my old Deviant accounts from 10 years ago. They are now posting actual CSAM material on there. Please report this account. They are trying to get into more of my stuff. So that's what he's alleging here in terms of that. So he's saying, well, people are posting stuff into my account, and I am going to, well, basically he's going to go sue them over getting doxxed. Because, at the end of the day, when someone goes after, like, your family, who's not even there to defend themselves, that is really insanely part. And he even has another tweet, like, following up this a bit later, where he says, I'm at my wit's end, like, they're actually trying to dox everything, hacking into one of my accounts, and they are posting CSAM on it, they are trying to get my phone number, and they are trying to involve my other family members. Please, anyone, I beg you, help me. So he's going after for that. And so, I mean, in the video, you literally saw he posts like his police reports and all that. And so here we get to the lawsuit. Okay. So here we are at the lawsuit, and it says here Chibi Reviews lawsuit. So this is Chibi Reviews from YouTube and Twitter. I am currently, sorry, 1 second. I can't read this. I'm a content creator that has faced continuous online harassment slander since October 5th, 2024, when I posted a clip from Dan saying the animators didn't need to go too hard. The harassment I received from threats against my life, and on top of the continuous slander, then all my information were doxed by individuals that hate me for talking about the anime and manga. While this is happening, they even got into my old Divid account and they actually posted the material. So, mind you, this is not up anymore. So luckily, the Wayback Machine is really helpful. And so at the time this was archived, it raised about $3,000, but it actually raised a lot more, as you're going to see later on. And so you'll be asking, okay, so he's doing this. It kind of makes sense, he's in the right. So why is this really controversial? Well, not too long ago, this lawsuit actually ended up being unpublished. So there's actually a statement here which says, everyone that has donated, I thank you for helping me try and get justice against those that came after my family. My family truly appreciates you and all, and seriously thank you. Made an official statement on this a few months ago on my options. My family and I are saving money to push forward on expenses. Now, you may be asking, well, okay, he takes it down, stuff happens. But as you can see here, there's a post here that actually went out of the way to say, here it says, Chibi Reviews has quietly unpublished his crowdfunding campaign for a lawsuit which has yet to be filed after 10 months. He raised over 17K. So that's quite an accusation, all right? Very, very heavy accusation. And, if you take a look into it, you might say, okay, that sounds true, because I actually went through his YouTube channel, and at least with community posts and stuff, so I went through his YouTube and all that. And also for legal reasons, he actually didn't post too much about it. And so the most I could actually find was literally from like 11 months ago, where he talks about the lawsuit. He says, that's what I could find in the recent months, because as you know, he didn't post this. And even on somebody else's YouTube channel, he also said here that he also put in a comment, he's like, the unpublished campaign for clarifications because I was ashamed to ask more money from the community, so I decided to focus on saving money to continue. So essentially, all the lawsuit money went towards whatever his needs were. And so that's the craziest part. Now, I will say, for this particular portion, actually, he actually did address some of the stuff. So we're actually going to go through some of his things, at least the parts where they mentioned money. So let's go here. And here we have, so on February 15th, the Give Send Go account reached 15K in donations. That's one of them. So that's so to help fund the lawsuit, of course. That is where we are at now. And so then we have to say consultation fees can be as low as up to $1,000. So $1,000 was spent just going around to find a tried lawyer, which ate into the 15K donation. So, according to him, all that money went into, at least all the 15K went into finding the lawyer. And now, in April, he also said here, for transparency's sake, the retainer fee for the lawyer was wanted was $5,000. That wasn't including the hourly rates from the lawyer. And the lawyer told me I'd get billed monthly on top of that $5,000. But on average, he said it would cost about $2,200 a month, and so this could take, while averaging up to anywhere to $20K or more spending on how long it takes. He also stated the individuals I would be subpoenaing for the information from X could take a while and might not even return results. However, they felt confident, and here's that. So at the 15K, he said I spent almost 3K of it for consultations. So there's a bit of the wording's a bit off, especially when he says the 15K went to the lawyer, but we'll keep going. Remember, this is from June to July, into July 2025. So we keep going. And so he says here, in July 2025, a large lump appeared in my groin region. And so he went to the ER, and then they gave him medicine for pain, but he's got a bill of $3,000 that he has to pay at a later date. And so if we keep going here, we keep looking again. Oh, then he has $2,400 to get a surgery for his twisted testicular appendix and cyst. And then on August 2025, he talks about X is paying him like $900 for every few weeks for posting on social media. So as you know, on Twitter, you can literally get money for just posting if you have a blue check. So that's why you see a lot of rage bait, and that's actually why even he participates in it sometimes. Or actually, no, all the time, to be honest. And so he says, I've offered to continue the lawsuit with the remaining $12K, but to be completely blunt, I will 100% have to spend the money out of my own pocket to continue because of the monthly lawyer costing way over $2,000 and because the retainer fee being $5K and money from the donations to be around $7K left. with the monthly cost, it'll run out in about 4 months, give or take. And so I leave it up to you to decide what are my best options. If you come to hate me, I understand, but felt it was important to state for everyone to see. Anyways, I love you all, and seriously, thank you for the support. So, at least we know where the money. So he said where the money went, and so where some people did draw issue with this is that that there's a bit there's like some receipts missing and all that, like actual transcripts and blah blah blah. And I will go out and say this: when it comes down to, especially when you like take people's money, you have to always be updating on exactly what is going on. Because when I looked at his YouTube, okay, and if there's a correction, I'll make it. But if there's a video, I'll also take a look. But there was literally no like mentioning on like a community post or on his channel talking about, oh, I want you guys to stop spending money, which is where I actually have a problem with it. Because while you have to pay for your expenses, that's fine. When you tell people I need money for a lawyer, they're giving you to you under that guise, then that's where that's going. That's where people want your money. And so that's where people are going to be like, that's why people are calling him a scammer. Now, am I going to call him a scammer? I'm not going to call it a blatant scam. That's not, that's not entirely honest. However, I will say this. You should really learn to communicate better, because it's really something when you're going to a whole doxing situation and people are making fun of your dead brother, and you want to go sue them, but you don't explain, oh, I actually don't think it's a viable option. And even then, suing people who are doxing you is a bit ambitious, especially over the internet. It's a little hard. It's a bit of a difficult process, but I digress. So yeah, that's basically what happened with that. And as well, while he was going through the doxing situation, he also had an ex-girlfriend that actually came up and actually accused him of being an abuser and a cheater. And so, naturally, this got picked up by lots of people, and because these are allegations. And you could even say, even in her post right here, it says here, only one of us is actively monetizing despair of breaking someone's heart of over 2 years ago. And it's not me, but sure, go off, King, and says the hard time of being unfaithful. So, judging from the fact that, one, this account's also, protected and it's private, so I can't exactly go and find more stuff on it. But there was no like screenshots being posted. She just kind of said that. And so the fact that he's going to a doxing controversy at the same time as this, you can see that he actually made another response to the whole ordeal. Now, I won't go into too much of it, but I will get some screenshots of what he posted, and you can literally see here, like on the post, that she is not exactly a reliable narrator. She even talks about like how she literally like basically choked about, which is bits of a red flag, don't you think? So yeah, and actually, at least I know it's a he said, she said, but judging from the fact that we have an unreliable narrator, Chibi actually mentioned this is what she did to him, which is probably one of the most evil things I've probably ever heard, but I actually can't do it justice. So let's hear what Chibi has to say about it, because that's where it really is.
Telling me that she was pregnant. Obviously, I said, are you sure? She's like, yes. And I'm like, how's the baby? Is it okay? Doing the proper things, what you should say, what you should do. And I was like, okay, what can we do for the child and all that? I'm thinking of options, for instance, like, how can we raise this child? What can we do now? For instance, since obviously we're separated, I still want to take care of the child. I was willing to do what I could, even if I had to pay child support. Then, after all that, I'm assuming she was just gauging my expression, seeing what type of person I was. She then tells me I aborted it.
Understandably so, that is probably one of the most insane things I've probably ever heard, like, ever. Like, outside of this doxing stuff and posting, like, illegal material, you have that. Like, that's crazy. And so that's something, of course, naturally, that just stacks onto the controversies. But this is the one where more or less he actually defended himself, and that's not really the point. But the whole idea is that amongst getting all of this coming towards his way, like harassment to his family, you also have people that are doing that, and you have his ex-girlfriend posting these kind of like allegations. So yeah, so he did end up getting out of that. So now that we're here, um, there's something that I have to actually point out, which is we gotta get to the modern controversies, because this is where a lot of the people are now coming in and exactly hating on him, like, because this whole doxing stuff is like kind of insane. But the modern controversies is really where, you know, people started to really look into him a bit more and kind of dislike him more than he already did. Because mind you, in like anime communities, especially, how you can even put like gotcha communities and stuff in there. These places are essentially like, I don't even want to call it the Wild West, because like basically you have your factions, okay? You're liked, you're disliked. And so because people are in their faction, they like their anime, they like their gotcha games, whatever, they are all, you know, basically gonna be playing faction wars for a fictional character or a fictional series and all that. So yeah, that's kind of like where we are now. But anyways, so let's actually take a look at something that actually got him swatted, because I'm telling you, it gets insane with this guy. Just to give context, or at least some background on this one, so the game Zenless Zone Zero, which is kind of known for its more fan servicey approaches, or literally, it's literally called a Gooner game, had posted a skin of a character that was in like a maid outfit, and she looks a bit younger, right? And so the reason why people tend to find are uncomfortable is because, you know, naturally, because she looks younger, people project like the like, children onto it, and because they do that, it makes them very uncomfortable. You know, they call it like, you know, disgusting and this and that. So I'm not here to tell you like, you know, it's great, but I'm just telling you that's the context behind it, because that's what people kind of see that as. And so naturally, GB reviews, because you know he likes to fight people, actually has a take where he says essentially, because it's pixels, you know, who cares? Now, I don't share that stance, because that's a bit, that's a very dangerous territory. That's true.
Reality, which I guess let's get right into that. I'm going to segue right into this and just make my point very clear. I've said this on social media, I've implied it in certain videos, but I don't want to get my words twisted by people. I'm just going to say it. If you're upset about this, you think this is a real person, you need meds. You need to get some medication. I think you might be a schizo. This is not a real person. It's a drawing. It's pixels. These pixels in this drawing cannot thank you. It doesn't have a soul. It's nothing. It's literally a soulless entity on a piece of paper or with pixels. Anyone that cannot separate fiction from reality from this, I think is actually kind of crazy. I think you really do need to take your medication. Now, it's fine if you don't like this design. It's completely fair. But if you're going out of your way to call someone a PDF for liking this, I think that says a lot more about you than anything else, because that means that you're putting a drawing in the same tier as an actual real living person.
Approaching, but so he basically makes his whole video on that. So that was literally 13 days ago as of recording of this video, so like around February 1st. But it gets even more insane, because he was then swatted literally 2 days after. And if you were paying attention earlier, you know that he was actually doxxed, so that means the person who swatted him could easily find this information like quick. And so the Twitter post says here, so I just got swatted and a police report is now being filed. Hope you know they are investigating your number right now. Whoever you are, Vaughn, woke my ass out of sleep, and they rolled up an ambulance as well too. I'll post the police report stuff when it's fully filed. So if this is not insane, then, you know, this is genuinely actual madness. Someone actually called him that. Now, I can't say it's over like this video specifically, but it's still crazy that he got that. And of course, he made his own responses and all this stuff. And I actually took a look to see if he ever filed a police report. I actually looked through his Twitter. I didn't find it. And so I looked through his YouTube as well. And the most we got of YouTube is that from 11 days ago, literally said, I want to say, thank you for everyone for support over the last 24 hours. My family and I are safe. I appreciate all of you reaching out. And I love you all. Going to spend the rest of the day gaming and reading manga on the side. So, yeah, that's where that happened. Now, I will say, to me, because some people need to hear a YouTuber say this, if you disagree with somebody, even with the most like controversial takes, wasting police resources is not exactly the best choices, because whenever you swat somebody, like police take it very seriously. It's actually a very serious crime. It's actually a felony. And you have people pulling up to your house. People have actually died from getting swatted for different reasons, of course. Sometimes they have heart attacks and you get shot and all that, because depending on who's being sent, you might have somebody who's not entirely competent, and so stuff can escalate. So it's really all in all a terrible situation to be in. And so the fact that somebody sent SWAT after him, like a day, no, I said 2 days, but like a day after this video is like, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. So yeah. So anyways, that happened to him. So you can understand that this guy basically goes to the gauntlet like every few, like not every few months, but he goes to the gauntlet pretty often enough because while he's fighting people and dealing with stuff like this, and especially getting doxxed over like anime, over a tweet, is quite a lot to say. So yeah. Now we're on to the final part of this because holy, this is the one that's probably the most insane part, and why he's been trending for like he's been trending for like the past like 2 days. So let's actually take a look at what happened here. Essentially, now that we're here, so remember how I said Chibi gets into a lot of fights on Twitter and stuff? So a favorite thing he brings up sometimes is his fiance. Okay, he brings it up quite a bit. And so, for example, here he talks about his fiance, and I think it's like a horse licking an armpit or something. I don't know. It's some degenerate meme. And then even somewhere else is like, so some will call him like single and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm not single," and here's her ring to prove it. So he'll literally use his fiance as not a crutch, but to show people, "Oh, I'm not a cuck or I'm not single. I actually can get something." However, it all kinds of ended here because now, if you take a peek, he says here first, he says, like, I want to delete myself, okay? Like, I want to die. Well, this is YouTube, I can't say that. Oh, well, it's okay. And so he says that first. And so naturally people are like, oh, well, what happened? Because it's quite a bit. And so next he says here, deleted so he had a post where he had, where he literally showed like his arm. And then he's like, oh, but then he's like, okay, to clarify, I'm fine. I was discharged from the hospital, and I had a mental break, and I did almost die last night, but I was saved at the last moment. So we literally have a series of events. We don't know what happened exactly, but something. So basically, he went from wanting to die to literally almost self-deleting, and then he went all the way to here, where he says, now. So later on, I just lost my fiance, my best friend, and my entire friend group in 24 hours. I've never been more alone than right now. And all right, when I tell you, people saw this tweet and they were just letting him have it. Like it was genuinely like I was actually kind of embarrassed for the people doing this because you had somebody who literally almost died and is losing everything, and they take this time to dogpile them. But that's Twitter for you, so that's just what it is. And so now that we're all here, we understand what's going on. Okay, so he lost his fiance, his best friend, so he's at rock bottom. And then he drops his video saying, I lost everything. Now it's 16 minutes long, or 16-20 minutes long, that range. So I'm not going to go to all of it, but I'm just going to show you the most important part on how we got to where we got to, because this is where it gets actually sad, like genuinely speaking.
You all saw the post. You all have seen. You've seen what I've said in the last 24, how many hours? I don't know. I'm just going to give you a full rundown of just everything that happened. Maybe I'm oversharing. This will be used against me to mock me or whatever. But like I said, I'm saying all this just to clear my head. Just because if I say it, it's done. It's over. Like, I'm able to just process everything at least a little bit better. So, on the 11th of February, I discover my fiancée cheating on me with my best friend of 10 years. I confronted her about this, and she apologized. And I, being with her already for multiple years, and then finding out my best friend, so much betrayal. So what I decided to do is just grab my keys. I went driving. I went to the liquor store. I bought alcohol that was the same alcohol, the last alcohol, that I drank with my brother. And then I drove into the middle of nowhere, near water, and I drank, and drank, just sitting there drinking. And I was inches from death. And Then suddenly, a police officer shows up. Don't know how. I'm found. But he shows up. And he saved me at the last moment. He did. And I come to find out, after all this, it was Nicholas Light that was the one that apparently called a wellness check on me. And he saved my life. He saved my life. Anyways, the officer escorted me to the hospital. Because obviously with everything, making sure, mental evaluation and all that. And I obviously couldn't drive, too much alcohol. So, he took me to the hospital, and I stayed basically the night. And I wasn't able to access my phone or use anything until they discharged me. I got discharged earlier this morning. And it was so hurt.
So, after all this happens, I think it's safe to say that if you're making fun of him for this, I think you are actually more of a loser than you see him as. Because you're making fun of somebody who's literally at rock bottom. Like, literally, legit at rock bottom. And you see this and you're just like, man, this is a good time to make a joke. Let's drop a cock chair joke or something. When that doesn't make sense as a joke, but you get the point. But that's Twitter for you. So yeah, I think it makes fun of him right now, especially like right now. Pretty awful, awful. And it actually turns out that he had somebody by the name like Nicholas Light who had sent him a wellness check, so literally saved his life. And then imagine like, and say he didn't make it, like, imagine, would you really be proud of yourself being like, wow, Chibi's gone, and I did something about it? It's like, no. Mind you, a lot of this started over a tweet about anime, and he ended up getting all the way here. No, not this case, obviously, but, the whole history of him started with stuff like that. But there is some good news, okay? He did drop an update where he says, he's going to the gym, he's going to get therapy, and that's really what the best outcome we can hope for, because getting help is literally your best bet. But I will also say this about Chibi, and this is what actually annoys me about him when I was looking into this, is that although he is the victim in cases like this, he also does a lot to like just anger people all the time. Like he'll have tweets like this one I'm going to show you up on screen, and have this one's like, oh, I'm alive because I live out of spite for my haters. It's like, no. It's like, what are you doing? He basically fuels the fire and gives people more reason to hate him already than he already is. Because if it's just a guy who's in a corner just like living his life and he's just hated on Twitter, like that's one thing, but he literally actively engages it. And even in some of his thumbnails, you'll see that he does stuff like, it'll say stuff like, oh no, I got swatted over this video, or I did this over this video. Very clickbaity, like using stuff that happened to you. And so, to me, he kind of feeds his own cycle, despite being the victim, if that makes sense. So, this is the only time I actually give actual advice. Chibi, if you somehow manage to watch this video, it really goes to anyone who goes through like a hard time, just take a step back. It'll save you a lot of time. And when you take a step back, it gives you time to reflect and really truly understand yourself and push towards something better. Rather than sitting here fighting people on Twitter or fighting people doing this and that, you can sit down and just figure out your own life. So you gotta take a step back. You'll be surprised how much like it helps doing that. That's why people separate, and that's why people, take breaks. That's why actually content creators especially take long breaks. Because one, they're allowed to, but two, sometimes you just gotta sit back and just enjoy life however you want to. And so, yeah. But anyways, to be honest, guys, at the end of this all, if there's actually only one real reason you should hate Chibi reviews, and this is actually like a genuine reason, and basically he says that mustard and peanut butter on a burger is like a killer combo. That is actually one of the nastiest food combinations I've ever seen. So, if you want to swing at him, I say swing at him for that. That tweet alone is enough. But jokes aside, yeah, this rabbit hole is kind of insane because you sit down, you look at this, it's like, dude, a lot of this could have been avoided if people just weren't crazy like that. But I'm glad he's getting the help he needs, and yeah, you should take a step back. But this is going to show that just because you disagree with people does not mean you should be wishing like the worst on. Like, I would not wish what happened to him on anybody. That's a lot to lose in the span of like, a few days, on top of being harassed constantly. So yeah, that's where we are now. But anyways, so that was the rabbit hole for today. Hopefully this video kind of went through everything that was like needed and cleared stuff up in case people are confused about Chibi reviews. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Just remember, like, you know, online stuff, you're allowed to take a break. You're allowed to, you know, not to be, you're allowed to be yourself. Anyways, that's it for me today. So if you like, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow my social media below. And yeah, hopefully the next video is a bit, you know, not like this. See ya.